Welcome to Epic Agents, the best in real estate podcast. I'm the host, Jeff Ham, and joining me is Gaby Abad. She's a senior loan advisor with Mutual of Omaha Mortgage and Keller Home Loans.
Home loans.
Yes,
You
Keller.
got it, Jeff. It's so nice to be here with you
Great to
today.
have you here, Gabby. I appreciate you joining the podcast. I'm really excited to have you on and to share a little bit of your story and also some tips for our real estate agent audience. So, welcome. Before we dive into how you or the work that you do now with your in the mortgage industry, share for listeners a little bit about how you got started in the mortgage industry and a little bit of your background.
So I'm from South America and I moved to the United States when I was a very young girl. So I did all the schooling here all the way up to college and grew up in a small town called Hickory, North Carolina, which is not too far from where we are right now. And from that, I immediately after college, I started working for a big bank and thought corporate world was my world, but had kids, got married, and I figured out that that wasn't my path. And mortgages just came as a blessing because I have such a passion to help clients. And what a better way to help clients with one of the most important purchases in somebody's life, right? And so when I did that, I never looked back. I've been in the industry for now over 10 years. It just seems like I started a year ago because we're always learning and there's always something new and it's crazy, but it's been a long time actually. And so I live in Lake Norman with my husband and my two girls. And yeah, life is busy and it's great and it's challenging, especially in our industry right now.
I was just having that conversation with someone this morning at a ribbon cutting event with the chamber. How
Mhm.
they asked how I'm doing. I said, I'm doing great. I'm very busy. And, everyone's response is, well, busy is good. And I said, well, I'm juggling a lot of things. I wouldn't recommend it.
That's right.
So,
That's absolutely right.
but yeah, I can totally relate. I meant to also mention at the beginning of this recording that because this is a national podcast, you are based in the Charlotte area of North Carolina. You live in the Lake Norman area, which is a beautiful area that I'm very familiar with.
Yes, come visit us.
It's absolutely. Speaking of how the last 10 years seems like it's gone by so fast. It's been a whirlwind,
Mhm,
no doubt. The last 10 years in the real estate and
mhm.
mortgage industry, Charlotte, North
Yes,
Carolina, in particular, has just exploded. I mean, what
exploded.
a hot market this place has been.
Absolutely. The growth that we have seen in North Carolina, but specifically in the Charlotte region, absolutely. Like even 10 years ago, you could have not described what it is now, which is really exciting though, because I feel like it's a clean city, it's beautiful. As you know, we have the best of being so close to so many areas, the beach, the mountains, the city. It's young, it's vibrant. I don't think I'll ever want to move out of this area.
It has a lot going for it for sure. And we get just
Yes,
enough of the four seasons, probably more summer than
yes,
any other season, but we get just enough of the
I would
fall and
agree.
winter to keep us happy, I think.
That's
Yeah.
right. Can't complain.
Well, how did you? You mentioned you're working in for a big bank and
Yes.
kind of transitioned into the mortgage industry. Let's talk a little bit about what the last 10 years have been like. You mentioned also that helping your clients make one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives, and that is
Mhm.
purchasing a home. But it's also one of the greatest investments, right?
Yes.
That we can make in our lifetime.
Absolutely. I saw this at a young age when my parents came to the United States. They were not fluent at the time and but they still wanted to buy a home and build wealth and have investments. And so at young 13 Gabby was translating the whole transaction of buying a house because back then there wasn't a lot of resources, especially for the bilingual or Hispanic community, I should say. And so I had to go through all that. And I think that just made such a huge impact right then and there in my life, that didn't know that this was going to be my path, but yet going through it at such a young age, even though at the time I was like, oh, I have to do this. I have to, it was a pain, right? Now looking back, I'm like, this is probably why I'm so passionate about this, because I do feel that no matter if you are a first time home buyer or if you are buying investment properties, the sentiment of getting those keys and it's just something that I can't describe. I think I just get such a fulfillment feeling when that happens. And so yeah, that's how I keep that in front of my everyday, because it is very challenging at times, and we've had some awesome years and we've had some really really I mean, last year probably was the worst that we've had in, I want to say, what, 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. So it was very challenging, but 24 seems to be better, so that's all I can say.
Yeah, a lot has happened just in the last couple of days. We're recording this episode in the middle of April 2024, and there's been some uh, less than stellar news in the last couple of
Yes.
days. But the general outlook seems promising, and I think that from what I can tell, things are improving as far as interest rates go, just not quite as quickly as we had hoped.
Exactly
Yeah,
right. Well, and I think that a lot of clients have realized that depending on where you are in the States, right? But house prices are not coming
yeah.
down. And so, what it takes to wait 6 months, a year to get a half of a point or a quarter of a point difference, it's really not going to make any difference when that house is going to go up in value. So you can always buy now, refinance later. And a lot of lenders are doing this right now, and I'm one of them. We have a no cost refinance for our clients because we want to provide a short term goal and a long term plan, right? And so when you picture that in front of those clients, they're like, okay, that makes sense. I can buy the house, I can marry that house, but then, hey, the rate is temporary. Who knows when, but it will be temporary. So I think that having a plan, it's so crucial and critical to be able to advise our clients the best way we can.
Yeah, the real estate market. So and I'm not an expert, but
Mhm,
I do work in the industry,
mhm,
but as far as the economy and economics, I definitely wouldn't say I'm an expert. But what I was expecting was to see a little bit more of the supply side to start to increase as and demand wane a little bit as we saw those increases in rates. But we haven't seen that in the Charlotte area. Inventory is still very low. Home values are still rising, which is
mhm.
mostly great. It still
Yes,
presents a huge challenge for first time home buyers, which
absolutely.
I think is a great segue for us to kind of get onto that topic a little bit. I would love to share for our realtor audience, and especially those who may be a little bit newer to the industry, maybe working with first time buyers for the first time in their career, may not have a lot of experience with that. What would be some tips that you would share with real estate professionals when they're working with a first time buyer client? What are some basic tips and some bases that they should cover during that process?
Absolutely. What I would say is that partner with a strong loan officer that it's going to help you guide those clients. You don't have to be the expert. I do recommend that you learn more, as especially if you're a brand new agent. Learning is key. Go to the events, go to the network, learn, learn, learn. Because the more you know, the more that you're going to be able to advise those clients, especially if you haven't bought a house. Go through that process yourself. There's nothing better than to learn it. Whether you're ready or not, it does not matter. What matters is to understand what it's going to take. What does those clients go through, right? But the biggest thing I would say is just partner with a loan officer that can take that from you and say, hey, you focus on going getting the business, networking, getting more clients. Let me focus on helping those borrowers hold their hand and one step at a time help them understanding what they need in order to be ready to buy a house.
One of the biggest challenges I see for, and I think it's kind of an obvious challenge that most real estate professionals will find with first time buyer situations, is that because inventory is still low, especially here in the
Yeah.
Charlotte region, and it's a
Yeah.
hot market,
Hmm.
they may find themselves at a disadvantage when they're competing with buyers who have large sums of cash that they can put down, or they might be paying cash
Absolutely.
100%. And
Absolutely.
it may be, a situation where the offers might be identical, but one looks
Mhm.
like it's going to close a lot quicker and a lot easier than the other one. So having, for a first time home buyer, to have those ducks in a row, to have that pre-approval, right? Isn't that key? The
Absolutely.
pre-approval.
It is so critical to be ready, right? And I talk to everybody, no matter if you don't want to buy a house or if you want to buy a house in 2 years from now, right? Understanding what the process looks like and understanding that you want to be prepared 3 to 6 months in advance just to make sure that, hey, you have peace of mind. And honestly, you do have more buying power because if you have a pre approval, then you know that not only a loan officer has reviewed all your documentation in your application, but an underwriting team has reviewed that. And ultimately, they're the ones that make that decision. So, giving you the buying power and getting in front of that seller, it's critical. So, I would recommend pre-approve. You don't want to waste anybody's time and you don't want to waste your own time because I've had clients where are like, well, let me wait until I see the houses. And I'm like, you're going to see the house that you love and it's going to be too
Yeah.
late. Because to your point, we don't have enough inventory.
Mhm.
And we want for a while. We really, I mean, it is what our market is at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. And planning ahead, you mentioned a great point, making sure that you plan ahead and think ahead. So even a couple of years in advance, you want to start looking at your cash reserves, saving
Absolutely.
a little extra every month so that you have the cash for due diligence, for your down payment,
Absolutely.
and then going through the pre-approval process so you know exactly how much the lender is going to require for down payment, and which
Absolutely.
varies, depends on programs, right?
Right. And they are loans for everybody, right? It's just more about how much does the client want to pay because the higher the risk in front of the lender, the higher the interest rate, the higher the cost, right? So the goal is to have options for our clients and then that way they can make the best financial decision for their needs and their family. But if you are prepared, you're going to have more options to choose from versus, hey, this is where we are now. Your lease is up. You have to get out of this apartment in the next 30 to 60 days or less. And this is where we are. And now we're crunching, right? And it's a stress for everybody. So, a mortgage process, a transaction can be very seamless. But I do very much believe that being prepared is key. That's it.
Absolutely. And experienced real estate brokers know that having a mortgage broker connection who is reliable and extremely professional and efficient, and someone that they can lean on to refer these clients to, is so valuable. So for
Absolutely. You have to care. I mean, you do. I put myself in my client's shoes every single day. And I tell my clients, if I were in your shoes, this is what I would do. And here's the reasons why. And I show them the numbers and I show them the data, right? Ultimately, they make that decision. But I do think that that relationship is so important because it is I do think it's an emotional, right? There's a lot of emotions going on. You're moving a lot of money I mean, it's just so much. And I think that when you really care and you have their best interests at heart and you convey that message, then they trust you and they know that, hey, you're gonna do the best for me. And that ultimately, that's what we want our clients to see the real estate agent and the loan officer as a team. We're here for you. just like an attorney will do if if you needed it, right?
Yeah, providing that good counsel. And yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's, it's never it's purchasing a home is just a giant investment. It's scary whether it's your first time or your fifth time
Mhm.
purchasing a home. I would, it does get a little easier and less scary each time, but it's a big, that's a
Right.
huge step for a first time home buyer to get out of a rental situation and purchase a
Yes.
home of their own for their family. So, yeah, having
Yes.
a great realtor and also teaming up with a really sharp mortgage broker to help guide them and counsel them through that process is so key. So I
Absolutely.
know experienced realtors, have know the value of partnering with a great mortgage banker, and I know that
Absolutely.
if new agents don't already know that, they know it now, and
They need to
yeah,
know that. They need to call
yes,
me.
yeah,
That's
that's
right.
right. Definitely. And you mentioned earlier about how you can take so much of that workload off the realtor's plate and
Mhm.
be able to, get with their clients and guide them through the application process and the loan process,
Right.
freeing up the real estate broker to get back to doing what they need to do to grow their business
That's
and
right.
spend more time on their business. So one of the things you mentioned was networking, and which
Yes.
is still so important. Um,
Absolutely.
for businesses like mortgage or real estate, for a real estate agent or insurance agents, CPAs, networking is so important, so key. What are some tips you would share with agents that are new to the industry who don't have a lot of experience with networking? Because networking is
Mhm.
challenging. It's an art and a skill all of its own,
Yeah,
really.
it really is, and it's scary, even for people that have been doing it forever, right? I do think it's just about showing up, doing it. You don't have to know all the information. You don't have to be the sharpest. It doesn't matter. You just have to be wanting to get to know people and show up. And what I would say to me, I am very into my community. I think that sometimes people try to do all things and it's too much, and then you become overwhelmed and then you don't do any of it. So for me, I think that focusing on a segment, it is very critical right now, especially for real estate agents. I think that getting in front of the camera and being active in social media, it's a must right now. I mean, especially where we live, with Instagram and Facebook, it is a free, right? It's a free avenue for us to be able to get in front of people, whether it's education, whether it's giving them valuable content, whether it's just saying here I am, right, staying top of mind. So I do think that that is critical, and I have a hard time with that. I mean, to be honest and fair, it's not easy
No, it's
at
not.
all, and we mess up all the time, and you have to kind of overcome that, and it's okay. We're all humans, we make mistakes, so who cares, right? But it is really difficult. But I do think that being in front of social media, network, really partner with other agents alike, right? And they don't have to be from the same realty. I have plenty of my realtor partners that don't work in the same agency, but yet they collaborate, they talk about ideas, and what are you doing, what am I doing, because there's room for everybody. Everybody has the room to improve it and gain more clients. But I think it's just increasing that visibility to attract more clients. And to me right now, the two ways that you can do that, besides focusing on some targeting marketing and doing events and things of that nature, especially when you're starting and there's not a lot of money in our pockets, I would say that the two things that are free is social media and networking.
Absolutely. You made a good point. In the beginning, we have more time than we do money, more time than we do marketing
Absolutely.
budget. So getting on to, crafting some interesting or helpful or even entertaining posts for your Instagram accounts is a great way to stay in front of folks. And look, we got, it's important to market, to show up where people are, and people, we
Yeah.
are all on social media, uh, off and on
Right.
throughout the day. So that's just a great place to get started. I also like that you pointed out to just hit record, just get on, get on the
To
camera
show up.
and
Yeah.
show up, and don't try to make everything perfect. Published
Oh,
is
I
better than
know. Yeah.
perfect, right? So
Oh, I totally agree. And I'm at fault for that, but I'm trying to overcome that as we speak.
same here, yeah, which is one of the purposes of this podcast. So I
I love
the
that.
the other great point that you made was, and I love this, and I learned this. It took me years to learn this, but you just
Mhm.
nailed it. And that was, don't try to do all the things. Don't try to be
Right.
everything to everyone, and don't try to be everywhere at the same time. Focus
Yeah,
on a niche or a segment, and
exactly.
really go in all in on
On
those
that.
specific segments. Whether it's one or two,
Right.
or just start
You
with
need to
one.
become the expert.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that you trying to be on all platforms, and trying to be all things and do all the things will just lead to burnout really, really quickly. So yeah, just focus on one or two
And the
channels.
burnout is
Yeah,
real.
it is.
Oh, I know. I mean, I've been there, done that, and it doesn't give you any more success or
Yeah,
clients or money or whatever it is. It just puts you in a spot where you're like, I'm
yeah.
exhausted, right? And we live already in an exhausting world. So I do think that focusing on one to two things that you can do really, really
Hmm.
well, and you can become the expert in that area, you will be very successful doing it that way.
And networking can be exhausting, but it's really, really important. And to kind of explore your community and find some,
Mhm.
just a handful, one or two or three groups to network with, or activities to
Mhm.
participate in, to grow your network. They don't have to be business related. They could be local recreational activities, or
Absolutely.
sporting events, or that sort of thing. But I've been networking for 20 years,
Wow.
and I still sweat every time. Every time I get into it,
Do
yeah,
you?
I
Yeah.
still,
I haven't been doing it for that long and oh, it's so
yeah,
nervous.
I still, it's still nerve wracking to me, but
Yeah.
some networking engagements are easier than others, for sure.
Sure.
But just show up. Everybody's in the same boat, and you're gonna
Exactly.
make some great connections. So
Agree. And sometimes you come home and you're like, oh, I met the most wonderful person. We had a great conversation. And it doesn't have to be, like, to your point, it doesn't have to be about the industry, but I just think it's about community,
yeah,
right? And what we can do for each other and how we can help each other because we're truly are all in this together.
we are truly. And one more point that I loved that you made was, network with other local real estate brokers and agents. And I truly believe community over, or collaboration and community over
Yes.
competition. There's
Yes.
room for everyone, and you can learn so much from each
Absolutely.
other. And there's going to be
Absolutely.
opportunities to collaborate and work together. So I think that's a really, really great point too, to not be
Yeah.
afraid to reach out and connect with realtors in your market.
It's the gift that keeps on giving,
Hmm.
right? I do think that, I mean, in my industry I have plenty of best friends who are in my industry and they work for a totally different company, but we still connect. We respect our clients, we respect each other, but we connect and we talk about what are you doing that it's helping you. And I do think that when you do that you receive more. And so that whole idea of giving, I'm a big believer of that, and I just think that there's room for everybody.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So you translated an entire closing or deal for your parents when you were
Hmm.
13. That must have been
Hmm.
extremely nerve wracking.
Yeah, it was. I think, yeah, it definitely had a huge impact in my life for many years. Not just just because being a teenager, as it is, it's difficult, and then having that weight of having to do a whole transaction as if you are buying the house,
Mhm.
right? And so now when I talk to clients that do not speak the language, it's really like it hits my heart because if I can speak directly to that mom and dad and that teenager can be a teenager, I mean, good for them if they want to learn.
Sure.
Listen, it was great for me, but if they don't have to have that burden. So it was a pretty awesome experience, but yet also as a kid, I'm like, oh, let's leave that for the parents.
Yeah. Well, Gabby, I first of all, I want to thank you. This is one of the early episodes for the Epic Agents podcast, and no one ever wants to go first. So I really
Yeah,
appreciate
let's not
you.
judge.
I really appreciate you joining to share a little bit about your career and some tips for realtors as they're working with first time home buyers. What states can you serve as a mortgage broker?
Well, thank you, Jeff, for having me. First and foremost, it's always fun, and I look forward to coming, hopefully, more times. I do serve North Carolina, South Carolina, and the beautiful state of Florida. But certainly, I am open to any other states as long as there is a need. So, those are the ones that I focus on, but certainly open for more.
Wonderful. How can listeners learn more about you and connect with you? What's the best way?
Absolutely. Talking about social media, I think that's the easier way. You can reach me or see me at Mortgages with Gaby on Instagram and on Facebook. And certainly through your podcast, maybe we can put my phone number in case somebody needs an email or a phone number.
Absolutely. I'll have the links and the phone number and email in the show notes for this podcast, in the description on YouTube as well. Gaby Abad is a senior loan advisor with Mutual of Omaha Mortgage and Keller Home
Yes,
Loans. Gaby, thanks
that's
again so
right.
much for joining the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate you and your time.